So let me give you a rundown on what exactly is going on in North Darfur in Sudan when it comes to this El Fasher situation. Now, El Fasher is the capital city of North Darfur with a population of about 300,000 people. That city fell to the Rapid Support Forces. Now, the Rapid Support Forces are a powerful paramilitary group in Sudan formed from the Janjaweed militias used throughout this entire Darfur conflict. They're known for their brutality. They were tied to the 2003 Darfur genocide. Now, they operate independently of the Sudanese armed forces and are led by Mohammed Hamdad Dagalo, also known as Hemedti. Now, Hemedti has been accused of war crimes. His forces had El Fasher under siege for the last 18 months. Now, on October 26, tens of thousands of civilians were seen fleeing from the city on foot amid gunfire as the Rapid Support Forces entered and started executing pretty much everyone they saw. It was basically just mass killings across the board. The United Nations recorded summary executions, rapes, including of infants, and ethnic cleansing against groups like the Fur, the Masalit, and the Zagawa. Aid organizations say at least 1,500 to 2,000 deaths have been reported over just the last couple days, with bodies visible from satellite images, and hospitals have been struck some 4 times now. Medics and patients have been executed. There have been videos of Hemedti himself overseeing some of these atrocities. What is happening in Darfur currently is the next iteration of a long line of massacres that have taken place since 2023. Some 150,000 people have lost their lives, with an additional 25 million currently dealing with a famine, half of which are children. So how did we get here? Well, it all started when Sudan gained independence from Britain in 1956, when ethnic, religious, and resource divides started emerging between the Arab-dominated north and the more diverse south and west. The first civil war ignited in 1955 and lasted until 1972 when South Sudan demanded autonomy. That ended in a peace deal granting South Sudan limited self-rule, but tensions flared up once again and a second civil war broke out in 1983. That one lasted 22 years until 2005. This one was driven by oil disputes and the imposition of Sharia law. It claimed some 2 million lives through fighting, famine, and atrocities, but this war did lead eventually to South Sudan's independence in 2011. Nonetheless, Darfur remained volatile, where non-Arab rebels rose against a neglectful government in 2003, prompting President Omar al-Bashir to deploy the Janjaweed militias in a genocide that killed 300,000 and displaced millions, earning Bashir an international warrant for war crimes. When that was quelled, Bashir formalized the Janjaweed militias into the Rapid Support Forces in 2013 in order to suppress further unrest and elevated Hemedti to one of the core leaders of the whole military apparatus. Now, in 2018, protests against Bashir began over economic hardships and grew into a revolution that toppled his government in 2019 after 30 years in power. This created a transitional council mixing civilians, the Sudanese armed forces, and the Rapid Support Forces. Well, that didn't last long because a coup took place in 2020 led by Hemedti, pushing civilian control aside. By 2023, fighting broke out again over disagreements between the Rapid Support Forces and the Sudanese armed forces about who controlled what. Now, foreign involvement also caused more problems as the United Arab Emirates armed the Rapid Support Forces through drones and logistics, even in the face of them committing atrocities. Russia also supported both sides in order to pillage gold worth over $2 billion annually from the country. And Egypt, on the other side of this, backed the Sudanese armed forces. Somehow, Iranian weapons also ended up in everyone's hands. Now, historically, the United States has been hands-off, only helping with some diplomatic and financial pressure, along with humanitarian assistance. This has carried over into Donald Trump's administration, as he has made no public comments on the Sudan crisis since taking office. Now, bipartisan lawmakers have criticized Trump for downplaying the conflict while simultaneously slashing over $87 million in humanitarian funds, including $30 million for Darfur's food, water, and nutrition needs, which accounts for over 80% of the community kitchen support they were getting in that country. Even worse, the Trump administration is making deals to arm the United Arab Emirates even as they arm the genocidal Rapid Support Forces. The Trump administration hasn't even appointed an envoy for Sudan, despite every single president before him doing so. He won't designate the Rapid Support Forces as a terrorist group either, or impose sanctions despite Republican senators such as Idaho's Jim Risch calling for him to do so. This hands-off approach by the United States has emboldened the Chinese and Russian proxies such as Wagner Group to step in and amplify the atrocities being committed there. But why should all of you care about this anyways? Well, because it's about to become another genocide like we saw in 2003, which President Bush and Clinton both describe as pure horror. But on top of that, it could directly impact us. Sudan once sheltered Osama bin Laden and allowed him to train there before 9/11. Now, the current chaos is fostering a revival of ISIS as well, with over 2 million refugees flooding the Sahel region and elevating the jihadist threat to both Europe and US allies. The rapid support forces are smuggling gold to Russia, which Russia then uses to fund its war in Ukraine and conduct gray zone attacks against the United States and its infrastructure. It's also a conduit for attacks in the Red Sea via the Houthis, costing the US billions of dollars in lost trade and naval operations. So, this is where we currently sit as massacres continue to happen frequently now in Sudan. Once again, the second and third order effects inevitably impact the United States, both in the near term and the long term, and could have irreparable effects on our pocketbooks and even our lives.